So the Chiefs season obviously starts now after they just took care of Houston. Who do you think Buffalo should be more concerned about between Patrick Mahomes, maybe some of his teammates or his extended teammates, the referees? What do you think they should be?
So let's talk about the refs. And you guys have heard me say, I think I said on this last show, that I think Buck and Aikman are made men unbelievable. Love their broadcasts. Aikman has been very consistent in that how much he hates the new rules about protecting quarterbacks. So I don't buy that he has a vendetta against Mahomes. I don't buy that. I don't think that. He really doesn't like the new rules. I thought they missed the mark a bit in their slavish focus on the roughing the passer calls. And we don't have video rights, NFL highlight rights for the podcast, but we'll go through them. The first one, if you go back and watch the game in real-time TV copy and just watch Mahomes, don't watch when he throws the ball, just watch Mahomes. That looks like as obvious of a roughing the passer call as you'll see in the league all year. It is a high hit to the head. His head snaps back. The ref who's standing behind it throws the flag. The first replay we see, which is from the ref's angle, it looks like an obvious roughing the passer call. The third replay we see, when it's from the side, you see that most of the contact did come to the chest, and there was grazing contact to Mahomes' face mask, okay? Now, you can say Mahomes sold it, I suppose. It's also Will Anderson, one of the fastest, best defensive players in football, hitting him full speed. And that was a huge penalty. I'm not going to act like it wasn't, because that was third down. The Chiefs kept the ball. They ended up getting 3 points. What I am, and this is where I think folks are intellectually dishonest, and I keep using that term. That call gets made in every game all year long. That's not a Chiefs-only thing. Every time the quarterback gets whacked and his head flings back and the hit's high, that's a flag. And what I felt the broadcast missed was that play was reviewed and upheld by New York. They saw it and they were like, yes, that's a penalty. Or at the very least, what they said is we can't overturn it because there was some contact to the helmet. So the first one, which did help the Chiefs put points on the board, is a regular call. A regular, typical call. The second one, I understand people being annoyed by for two reasons. One is Mahomes baited them into it, and the other one was they hit each other, not him. That was a bad call. There is no denying that was a bad call. My frustration with the focus on that is if they didn't flag that, it was going to be 2nd and 6. That's the part of it that I don't follow the outrage on. That wasn't on third down. That wasn't on, it wasn't going to be second or third. It wasn't on 2nd and 25. It was 1st and 10. He ran for 4 yards. So that was a bad call that also, I think, had minimal impact on the game. Go ahead.
Let it be 2nd and 6 then, that's probably the outrage. Is just we want to see, let them make the play as opposed to the refs just teleporting them there, It's we got to, it could have stopped something.
No. I totally understand that. I think, and if we want to make roughing the passer calls reviewable, I'm all for it. Also, and then the thing, what's to me most delusional about the discourse is the image everyone is using as anger about the Chiefs and the refs is for Mahomes' flop on the sideline.
Yeah.
But there was no flag there. Like
Yeah.
there's
But you know where that comes from,
Go
though.
ahead.
It's like hand in hand. He gets all these calls, and then you see him flop on the sideline.
Trying
it's
to
like
get
how
another
many of
one.
these other exactly. It's like, come on, man.
No, I understand that. And so if we want to, revisit a lot of, and by the way, the running around, the one that he got that would have been 2nd and 6, that's dangerous for him.
There has
I
to
don't
be like
want him
some
doing
type of
that.
rule for that, right? Yeah, it's like they try to squeeze out every yard they can, and then they put the defender at a disadvantage themselves
I
physically.
think that, right, I think that there is a real argument to be made that and there's going to have to be judgment stuff, for quarterbacks, if you do not basically instantly slide, if you can run as far as you can run, but slide at the, as soon as someone's within X amount of yards of you, then you're not protected anymore. Then now you're a running back. I think I'm fine with that rule. I'm also fine with, guys, it's a penalty to flop on the sideline or in a scrum, because you don't see it so much with quarterbacks, but the offensive line, defensive linemen who jaw at each other, having in Bills Ravens, and some Bushman was like, oh, I got shot. I'm fine with that being a penalty. I'm good with all of it. But what was to me like triple annoying about the discourse was the first penalty, which did lead to points, is a penalty all the time in the NFL, and they reviewed it and said, yes, it's a penalty. The second one, I think, had minimal impact on the game. Minimal. And then the other two parts of the discourse that killed me was, if we are listing reasons the Texans lost, and we're being honest, how many do we have to list before we get to the refs? First reason is that Travis Kelce destroyed them, right? That's the first reason. The second reason is they had a special teams abomination literally from the opening kickoff. The third reason is, and this is a pretty big one, you scored one touchdown on the road at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Teams doing that are, let me check, 0 for life since Mahomes has been the starter. And if we want to say, and I would argue the fourth reason is
the O-line. The hold nothing.
The offense, well, that's kind of hand in hand with the only scoring one touchdown. Okay. You know what I mean? So those are kind of combined. Right. Fourth reason, I thought D'Amico had a tough game management game. I thought kicking the 55-yard field goal in those conditions early was just flatly the wrong decision. And I thought rushing that 4th and 10 down 8 and not using a timeout or punting was the wrong decision. And then reason number 5, I would go to the officiating. That's how I would rank it. The other thing that frustrates me is people not caring about the data, not supporting this idea that the Chiefs get all the calls. On the last pod, we did the thing about how when it comes to roughing the passer penalties, there is one quarterback head and shoulders that gets more than anyone. It's Josh Allen, and Mahomes is middle of the pack. And that's per game, per pass, however you do it. But the other thing is, and Josh DeBow has, of the Associated Press, has been fighting the good fight on this, which is there is simply no data to suggest, no matter how you isolate it, that the Chiefs get some hugely beneficial whistle. I'm not going to go through it all, but since Mahomes has been there, they are dead last in the NFL in penalty yardage differential. People are like, oh, well, it's not that. It's just during this dynasty run during the last 3 years. The Chiefs have been penalized for 147 more yards than their opponents in the last 3 seasons. That's the 12th worst. Vikings actually have the best at their almost 1,000 fewer than their opponents. Then people are like, no, we're talking about the fourth quarter or big spots. Let me find his tweet on that one. Where, gosh darn it, I had it because somebody was talking about it. It's high leverage situations. So let me find it real quick. I apologize. I should have pulled this up beforehand. He tweeted a lot more than I thought he did. Maybe it's in his replies. Okay, here it is. Now do third down in the fourth quarter up. So somebody wrote a third down in the first quarter up 7 is not the same as a third down in the fourth quarter down 3. Josh DeBoe of the Associated Press. Chiefs opponents have gotten 4 more first downs by penalty on third and fourth downs in the fourth quarter and overtime in games decided by 1 score or less since Mahomes got there. And so there's just no data to support this. But when teams are always in the biggest games and when we're in an era where the best quarterbacks are hyper protected, this is, it's why Chiefs fans feel like Josh Allen gets all the calls, and it's why the rest of America feels like the Chiefs get all the calls. My last point on the refereeing and the biggest frustration on it. There was, and this is where I just think everyone loses their ability to fairly reason. There was one horrific call this weekend that you can say directly, maybe not only directly led to points, maybe changed the entire game. And everyone is and it would have been the best argument to make by anyone during all of my Lamar Jackson ranting. But people are so used to bad calls, it didn't even occur to them. They only stick out when it involves the Chiefs. Because the defensive pass interference penalty to Monze against the Ravens at the end of the first half was the worst call of the weekend and the most impactful. It's undeniable. Yeah. That was, they maybe get 3. Because of that, they definitely got 7. It takes a 14, maybe 17-10 game to 21-10. Set the table for all of it. That looked to me like offensive pass interference or a no call. They called defensive pass interference.
Yeah.
Right. Also in that game, Lamar got whacked on the sideline.
On the sideline, yeah, 100%.
And there was no call.
Yep.
And so now maybe it's like, okay, the league's in the bag for the Chiefs and the Bills. Or maybe it's that standalone games, there's going to be a lot of bad calls. And it just like that, nobody brought up as a defense of Lamar the bad pass interference penalty. That actually would have been a good one. Like, hey, man, even with all those mistakes, they should have just been down 4. They sustained it. A terrible call went against them. But people are so tied to this narrative that, no, the bad calls only favor one team in the league, and it's the Chiefs. That to me, and I thought Buck and Aikman overdid the refereeing stuff in the Chiefs game. They were still talking about it when it's 3rd and 11 and Mahomes to Kelsey, the greatest playoff combination in the history of the league, combines for what is the critical touchdown. They're still, upset about the refereeing. I thought they overdid it a bit. I thought Nance and Romo underdid it on that DPI. That DPI was a huge
agreed with the call. Romo agreed with the call.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And so that to me was, that's what I'll say about the officiating. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.